Aidan Winsbury, Tom Williams, Meg Wilkinson, Liam Wandowski, Abdulaziz Al-Wadi, Abdullah Al-Jafar.
We were given the task to design a biofuel system to provide a suitable fuel which will power road vehicles and can be accessed at a normal filling station. We started by discussing what a biofuel is, a fuel which is derived from organic matter. A gas is produced but must be refined before it can be used for fuel to power a car. This gave us a basis on which we could start, and from it, we came up with specifications our design would need to consider.
We identified three main factors that we wanted to incorporate into our design. It had to be out of the public eye, so not in the centre of town, with a one-site design and close to at least one external biomass source.
Here's a brief overview of the entire process. The feedstock, which is organic matter, is fed into a digester. Here, it ferments and gives off gases, the most important of which is methane. The gas is collected and fed into a refiner, where it turns into a purer methane and liquefied. It is then stored, ready for transport. The fuel is flammable and must be transported safely. Once at the petrol station, it is stored. Via a pump similar to traditional petrol pumps, it can then be pumped into suitable vehicles.
We have decided to locate this site 1.5 miles away from Callington, Cornwall. This is because it's far enough away from the town to not affect the residents there too much, but close enough to minimise the transportation costs of the biomass. The biomass would be provided by the Ginster pastry factory and by local cattle farms within the area, providing fat and animal waste respectively. With the biomass, this will be put in the digester to produce the biogas needed. The site is situated approximately 15 miles away from Plymouth, so can be affordably transported there. The area is approximately 7 acres, so is large enough to fit the 2 digesters, refinery and office building we wish to have at the site.
The yield of biogas from individual feedstock depends on a number of things, such as the content of dry matter, length of time in the digester, and the purity of the feedstock itself. This table shows only a sample of feedstock that could be used in our digesters. These are the ones we deemed we would use the most. Due to location, both fats and manure are obvious choices. They are easy to source and provide good yields. Biomass is organic matter, such as animal, human or food waste, and plant matter. Solid and liquid waste are collected and stored, and the digester is hermetically sealed. This means that it is impervious to gases, not allowing any oxygen to enter. We designed a digester to illustrate how it works. A large rotating arm with paddles on spins around the digester, mixing the slurry. The microorganisms that are either supplied from the animal waste or injected separately break down the slurry. This produces methane gas, as well as the byproduct carbon dioxide. The slurry in the digester needs to be kept at a constant temperature of 55 degrees Celsius. Hot water is circulated through from an outside source, for example, waste heat from an engine. The water is around 60 degrees Celsius, providing heat for the slurry, and leaves the digester at approximately 40 degrees Celsius. It can be circulated back and reheated, or if desired, used for other purposes.
The refinery is a machine that purifies the biogas into 95% pure biomethane that can be used as fuel. In the following slide, I will explain the process step by step. First, the biogas is transferred from the digester into the refinery through section A, which is the feed pipe between the digester and the refinery. Second, the biogas is moved to storage section B in order to gather a specific amount of biogas before starting the purification process. Third, the biogas is sent into the purification chamber section C, as known as the scrubber, to remove the carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide by adding a large amount of water undergoing high pressure, as both substances are more soluble in water than methane. After that, the gas is sent through section D, which is the drying and condensation unit, which is designed to remove the moisture from the biogas by having a few drying and condensation points, which traps the moisture when the biogas is traveling through the pipes. After that, the biogas concentration level of methane is increased from the range 55 to 70% into more than 95%, which gives us biomethane, and it is transferred to section E, where the biomethane undergo cryogenic freezing, where the temperature of the unit reaches negative 130 degrees Celsius to convert biomethane into liquefied biomethane, where it will be transferred to the storage in section F as shown in the simple diagram and be ready for transport through the pipe in section G.
Storage tanks must be thermally insulated to avoid liquefied biomethane evaporation. Also, biomethane must be used within 1 week to avoid high loss.
Transportation is required after the whole process is finished, which takes few days to produce the amount in order to fill up at a trucker tank with capacity of 10,000 gallons with built cryogenic liquid cylinders that isolate temperature and have approximately 3.5 bar of pressure, so the biomethane remains as liquid. There will be two pumps, one at the refinery which pumps the liquefied biomethane into trucker tanks, and the pump at the fuel station to transfer the liquefied biomethane to refuel the station storage that it's thermally isolate and located underground. Usually transportation is short distance, which is a few miles, to reduce.
Once the biofuel has been converted into liquefied natural gas, the fuel is able to be used within vehicles. In liquid form, the fuel is able to take up only 1/600th of the space that the gas state would take up, which allows more to be transported to the petrol pumps. Natural gas emits far less carbon dioxide into the atmosphere than regular sources such as petrol or diesel, and produces 1.3 to 1.5 times more energy than petrol or diesel respectively. Regarding the compatibility of the biofuel, it seems that many diesel cars are able to run this with little difficulty. However, there are still problems that arise. It becomes less efficient if the vehicle was made prior to the creation of low sulfur diesel, which was around 1994. Also, if the vehicle is in very cold weather conditions, it becomes increasingly difficult to run biofuel vehicles. To combat these problems, conversion kits are available for purchase, but these are not essentially needed to run biofuel vehicles. An existing car manufacturer researching into biofuel technology is Volkswagen, with their Touran TSI EcoFuel model. This vehicle can hold up to 24 kilograms of natural gas, with a further 11 litres of petrol as a backup. This allows the model to travel up to 520 kilometres using the natural gas alone. There are not many areas across the United Kingdom that refuel biofuels presently, but many factories that produce it have their own refilling site. However, there is more interest in mainland Europe such as Germany, Austria and Sweden for biofuel.
During our design process, there were a few ideas that we decided not to continue with. One of these ideas was looking into the feasibility of incorporating the entire process into a system that could fit into a car. This design took inspiration from the film Back to the Future, where Doc Brown pours rubbish into the DeLorean instead of petrol. However, upon looking into this idea, we decided not to pursue it any further, as the digester would have to be quite small, so the yield from it wouldn't be enough to move the vehicle. This design is meant to stay in the movies. Where our final design features the digester and refinery on one site, we did toy with the idea of separating the refinery and digester and putting them at different sites, leaving the digester on the original site and moving the refinery closer to, if not in, the petrol station. This would make it easier to keep the biofuel pumps topped up, and, with the addition of a small digester at the petrol station, would greatly reduce the waste output of the fuel station.
To make sure the project was kept on course, a Gantt chart was used. As you can see, there was minimal change to the planned schedule.
We have designed a biogas fuel system to produce suitable fuel to power road vehicles. We have found a suitable location and designed the machinery required to convert biomass to biofuel. We will have 2 digesters, a refinery and an adapted fuel pump for biofuel.